part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi Roda podcast powered by Cleveland Party Rentals and Newark Auto Body here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And as we always do, a tip of the cap to our fantabulous producer, Cordts, who makes sure all of you get this out there in the podcatosphere, wherever you get your podcasts. And do us a favor, subscribe to the Press Play Podcast Network. And that way you'll know when the R&R podcast, a new one, pops up, and you can listen to it whenever you want to on any of your smart devices. All right, Michael Reghi, the dominoes have fallen for the Cleveland Cavaliers this offseason. Domino number one, they fired J.B. Bickerstaff. Domino number two, they hired his replacement, Kenny Atkinson. Domino number three, Donovan Mitchell has agreed to a contract extension. 3 years, $150 million. Third year's a player option, but he's here for at least 2 more seasons. So in this first half of this podcast, Michael Reghi, your thoughts on Kenny Atkinson being named the new head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers?
I like Kenny Atkinson. I think he's got a shot to continue the Cavaliers' winning ways. Now, the big question is will he be able to take that next step, right, Kenny,
right,
and get them where they can, we'll walk before we run here. Be one of the top couple of teams in the Eastern Conference and maybe find a way to get there and to get to the NBA Finals. I'll just start with get to before we start with winning a championship, because to me, I'd like to get your thoughts on that. That's the next step. They got to get there. I still think there's a couple of teams that I feel are better suited to win a championship in the Eastern Conference. Boston is not going anywhere. There's no doubt about that. The New York Knicks are more than capable now, and I still think Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks are a team that is going to have to be reckoned with, Kenny. Those are the top 3 in my mind. So your thoughts on that, and how close are they? How close are the Cleveland Cavaliers? And let's say they pretty much bring this thing back the way it is player roster-wise.
I don't think they can get to the NBA Finals if they run it back without doing anything to the roster. I like the addition of Kenny Atkinson, okay? Kenny Atkinson has paid his dues after that first go-round with the Nets as a head coach, so at least he has some experience. He took a team to the playoffs. And then, as he said, he kind of went to college, basically, with Taiowa, right, in L.A.,
Yep.
And then Steve Kerr in Golden State got a ring out of it as an assistant with Golden State. And so he learned how to handle superstars and Hall of Famers, which, well, he really didn't have any in Brooklyn when, that all went bad, right? So
Right.
I think he was the best coach available of the players that they interviewed and the best coach available of the coaches they interviewed and of the coaches that were really out there looking for a head coaching job. So I'm okay with the hire of Kenny Atkinson. I want to see what the rest of his staff looks like. Who he's going to bring on board. Does he keep the defensive guys from the Cavaliers, or do those defensive coaches go now with J.B. Bickerstaff to the Detroit Pistons, who have hired J.B. now as their head coach? Because I don't think you mess with the defense. I think what has to change is the offense. So I would be okay if he kept some of the guys that were in charge of the defense and bring in some new offensive-minded coaches with him, because it sounds like, Michael Reghi, he likes to shoot the three. He likes to get up and down the floor with his offense.
He does. There's no doubt about that. I'm going to bring up 2 guys here. Darius Garland, Jared Allen. Are they both Cleveland Cavaliers as this 2024-25 season begins? And with your statement just a second ago,
Yeah.
about shooting the three. Look, Darius Garland's numbers are good. They're good as I do not like the 6'1" backcourt. But again, they're both big time offensive players. So, okay, that's what it is right now. But I mean, does Garland under this type of offense, can he even accelerate his offensive game? And what about Jarrett Allen? Can Jarrett Allen become just a better all around player? He had a real good year. Just the bad thing was not seeing him being able to finish the season, and it really hurt the Cavaliers with injury and not being able to play in that Boston series. So, where are you with those two specifically? I think they're the two key components. By that I mean I'm not saying they're above Donovan Mitchell, no, but what I mean is you got to get big time years out of both those guys for them to make the moves we're talking about, Kenny.
Kobe Altman has been steadfast in saying that I don't feel the need to break it up. I don't see why we should do that. In other words, I do want to run it back as is. Mitchell and Garland in the backcourt, Allen and Mobley in the front court, and that other position, that's still up in the air. That's the area where I need that. Okay, if they're going to run it back with the core four, Reg, it can't be Max Strus, Karis LeVert, Dean Wade, or who's the defensive Isaac Okoro. Yeah, Niang. It can't be any of those guys. For me, I need a new starting three on this team. Now, who is that? I don't know. Okay. Is there an interest maybe in Miles Bridges, right? Formerly of the Charlotte Hornets, who's a free agent this year. Right. Could they work out a sign and trade maybe with Charlotte to make that happen? Now, there's off the court issues with him, right? The domestic violence situation. He was suspended 30 games. So that baggage comes with. But he's kind of what they're missing and maybe the best of what's available to them to actually go out and fill that this year. I wanted Mikal Bridges. Well, they didn't have 22 first-round picks to give up like the New York Knicks did, to go get him. It doesn't look like, they're going to maybe be able to swing a deal with the Pelicans now, right? Because they went out and got DeJounte Murray, so there's no interest in Darius Garland, where they could have made a trade, with the Pelicans. Who's the power forward with the Pelicans that swing forward, 3-4 forward that was available for them? Used to be with the Lakers. I'm drawing a blank now. It's just that old age in me creeping up. Brandon Ingram, that's who it is. So that's the guy that I would like to have maybe gone out and picked up, Reg, but I don't know now that they have a point guard if they can get him, from New Orleans. So I've got to find me a starting three to run with the core four if they're keeping those guys together.
And the one guy you didn't mention, I know it was just a momentary slight. That's not Isaac Okoro either.
Yeah, well, I don't want him either. No, thank you. Right. He's my 8th, 9th, 10th guy. Whatever. I've said he's a restricted free agent. I'm praying somebody offers him a contract and they just let him go. I don't have to deal with that crap. Hear about how they're going to make him a shooter and everything like that. I'm done with that. But as far as Atkinson goes, like that hire, that's good. He even said, they're paying me to make this work, right? That's my job. And he said he was confident in not only making it work with the backcourt, but I loved what he was talking about with Evan Mobley, making him a bigger part of the offense and making him an all-star caliber player and getting him more touches and running more with him and making him a bigger part of the offense. I loved hearing that. Let's hope that Mr. Mobley puts in the effort this offseason in the weight room, bulks up a little bit, and is shooting 1,000 3-point shots a day and then another 1,000 15-foot jump shots a day, because he's got no game outside of 5 feet right now, and that has to change.
Got to happen. Well, all the things you said about Mobley, absolutely correct. And Kenny, I think he's on the mantelpiece of the Cavaliers as being the key guy. He's got to achieve or show that he's, again, getting closer to achieving all the things that you just mentioned in his game. He's, to me, again, and because of 6'11", and I'm not diminishing or slighting Donovan Mitchell, but to me, you got to have it when Evan Mobley is considered the number one guy on this basketball team. Now we're talking about something. Now you got something that maybe is going to work and will fit and be something that brings everything together. That's the way I feel about it. And I believe Mobley's got that in him. We've got to see it, though. I mean, and it's got to start right now.
Yeah.
I mean, right now.
Kenny Atkinson's job is to develop Evan Mobley, make the offense better, keep the defense the same, and get further than the Eastern Conference semifinals. Is that a fair assessment, Reg?
Very fair. And again, I am not asking them, nor do I think they can, by the way, to win a championship this year or even get to the NBA Finals. I think that's still one step too far. But that doesn't – winning 2 rounds, Kenny? Winning 2 rounds and playing for an Eastern Conference championship might be against the Boston Celtics again, possibly. But that's what I want to see this year. If that happens this year, as much as I know come May and say they lose a tough series, we'll all be disappointed. But if we're being realistic, I think that's the next major step this team must accomplish.
I'm with you 100%. 100%. If we're that progression, you go from non-playoff team to play-in team, to playoff team losing the first round, to playoff team win a first round series, lose in the second round, right? So the next step is win an Eastern Conference semifinals and get to where the Indiana Pacers and Boston Celtics were this past season, playing for the right to go to the NBA Finals. Anything short of that, I will be disappointed. Very disappointed. I'm with you,
and I don't think that's unrealistic on our parts either. Given and so now Kenny Atkinson has been, he's been anointed as the guy that, and I feel good about that. Kenny, I do like the fact some people think it's not that big a deal. I disagree because I don't know how many you say your top 5 players, your top 6 players for sure on this current roster. Jared Allen and Karis LeVert are 2 of those. They both played very well in their time as Brooklyn Nets with Kenny Atkinson. Is that just coincidence? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out. Again, was the Brooklyn Nets a great basketball team when LeVert and Allen were there? No, they made the playoffs one year, did they not? With Atkinson as the head coach, 42-40. But to me, Kenny, that intrigues me because Atkinson has shown. Again, those are 2 of your top 6 players on this basketball team. So I like the fact that he has gotten expanded games from both of them. They got better, and it turned into winning at least for 1 year. So we'll see if that continues with those 2 guys. They're both very important to this current Cavalier squad. Both of them, very important.
So, Kenny Atkinson, you are now on the clock. Congratulations on getting the job. But the honeymoon is over, and it's time to get down to business. And, what is that next domino that falls after they fired the coach, they hired the coach, and we're going to get into this. They're going to sign Donovan Mitchell to that 3-year, $150 million contract extension. What's the next move that Kobe Altman, Mike Gansey make to better this team? And so we'll see if he's got something up his sleeve that he can pull off, maybe in what I like to call a menage a trade, getting 2 other teams involved. So it's a 3-way trade, and you go get that wing player that you so desperately need as a starter, allowing everybody else to fall back into their roles of coming off the bench and giving you a solid second unit like we saw the Boston Celtics have when they won the NBA championship this year. And Michael, the Celtics, Jason Tatum just got paid. Derek White just got paid. Cornette, the big man, is back. So like you said, they're not going anywhere. They're going to defend their championship very well next year with Jaylen Brown, the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals and the NBA Finals. Philadelphia loaded up, right? Paul George.
Yep.
They kept Tyrese Maxey happy, spent $400 million on those two guys, added Andre Drummond. It's all about the bigs, Reggie. We got Andre Drummond as the backup to our big, who's an MVP. And so, Coach Luke is very happy about that. So Joel Embiid's got a backup now there too. So, and Kelly Oubre is staying there so that's a team that's definitely going to be challenging Boston.
No doubt.
Then the Knicks went out and got Mikal Bridges, even though they lost Frankenstein, I like to call him, Hartenstein to OKC. That's still a team that's going to be, I think, ranked ahead of the Cavaliers as the season starts if they don't do anything.
Yeah, probably a 50-win team. Those others, Philly will win 50+. The Knicks will win 50+. Boston, who knows, might be 60+. So right now, I think we'd agree the Cavaliers are kind of in that middle sector of what are expected to be the Eastern Conference NBA playoff structure.
Yep.
Again, what kind of steps can they take? I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I just don't think that there's going to be, and maybe Kobe Altman will prove us wrong, but I don't think there's going to be much more addition to the roster. I think the way we see it right now is probably, Kenny, at least 90% of the way it's going to be. So we'll just have to see what Atkinson's coaching is able to do and how much a positive factor it brings.
Internal growth is what they're hoping for with a new head coach. That's what they're hoping
they're
for.
using?
Yeah, internal growth, just like the Guardians, right? They thought that their young guys would grow, from within. And so far, they won their 53rd game tonight as we're taping this podcast, beating the White Sox. So they're 53-30. And David Fry went yard again, another guy that they put out there, and he's rewarding them with production. Hopefully some of the Cavaliers players can do the same if they don't do anything else and add to this roster. But one guy that will be on this roster for this year and next year, and maybe a third year after that, is Donovan Mitchell. We'll talk about his contract extension when the R&R podcast continues on the Press Play Podcast Network right after this.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey, everybody. Always want to tell you about our good friends at Cleveland Party Rentals. They're your go-to for memorable events and parties. Now, their approach is very simple. As I've been telling you, they treat your event as exactly as if it were their very own. So they're going to help you alleviate all the stress of the event coordination that you so often get. This way, you see, you can savor the moments that matter. They're dedicated to offering you pricing that's clear and completely free from hidden fees, and that's coupled with one of the most robust cancellation policies in the industry in case maybe you get a change in plans, right? That happens once in a while. They have a tailgate package I want to tell you about. You can lock in your games for the season or even put your Super Bowl party together in the summer so you're ready to go in February. Here's what you get. High-quality outdoor screen and projector with immersive sound, double bowl frozen drink machine, a popcorn machine, 2-tap beer jockey box. You get a front row seat. Everybody gets that. It allows you to unleash the ultimate entertainment experience. That game day bundle I just told you about, I know you heard me. It's a complete package that transforms your backyard into a cinematic and gaming paradise. Here's the best part. Ready for this now? Get ready to write this down. Listeners, all of our Reghi and Roda podcast listeners, use code CLEPartiesRock. I'll spell that for you. CLEPARTIESROCK for 10% off your booking. Do it now at Cleveland Party Rentals.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey gang, the Roadman Kenny Roda here from the R&R podcast. If you've been in an accident, first of all, I hope you're okay. Secondly, if you are and your car's not, then guess what? You need to look no further than Newark Auto Body and Zanesville Auto Body. Why? They're safe, they're reliable, their collision repairs are what they do best. It's their business. They are located in Newark and in Zanesville, and they are a local family-run and veteran-owned business serving those areas, Newark, Zanesville, and the surrounding areas. And how about this? They work with all the insurance providers to make your experience hassle-free. You're already down in the dumps because your car is dinged up, right? You don't need a hassle from the insurance company. That's the other great thing about them. Plus, you can ask about their special discounts for U.S. military veterans. You want to check them out online? Here's where you go. autobodyofnewark.com or autobodyofzanesville.com. And to get your repair started today, instead of checking them out online, pick up the phone, do it the old-fashioned way. Call 740-899-4111 and tell them Reghi and Roda sent you.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we continue with the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And we want to thank our sponsors, Cleveland Party Rentals and Newark Auto Body, for being a part of the R&R podcast. And if you're looking for a good time, Cleveland Party Rentals, come on. It's called Cleveland Party Rentals. It's a good time, right? And if your auto device, machine, car, whatever you want to call it, needs some work, then you call Newark Auto Body, and they'll make sure it's looking brand spanking new. So thanks to them for being a sponsor here on the Reghi and Roda podcast. All right, Michael Reghi, I'm going to read you word for word the Woj bomb that was dropped this morning from ESPN on Donovan Mitchell's contract. He is a Cavalier, and here it is. Cavs All-Star guard Donovan Mitchell has agreed on a 3-year, $150.3 million maximum contract extension that includes a player option for the 2027-28 season. All right? The deal delivers the Cavs the stability of having their franchise player under contract beyond next season. For Mitchell, it delivers a guaranteed 4 years and $185 million total now, and then a chance to reach the league's 10-year service criteria that would allow him to pursue a 5-year extension worth $380 million in 2027. Wow. All right? So that's the way this is, being termed today. So the good news is Donovan Mitchell's going to be here for a while. And Michael, I was a little bit concerned at season's end about whether or not they would get this done. All the national pundits wanted him out of Cleveland, right? But as this went on, the more I was hearing, I heard positive things from everyone involved, from the vice president of basketball ops, Kobe Altman, Mike Gansey, the GM, Donovan Mitchell himself. And sure enough, we wake up on this Tuesday morning and they say, yes, he's agreed to a contract extension. They'll sign it probably on Saturday when they can officially do so.
I think we both agree it was an absolutely must-have for Kobe Altman and the Cavaliers to get done. Yes?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they've got that done. Now, how can I phrase this? Don't let the fact that really the contract he signed for 2 seasons and that omnipresent player option for a 3rd. Well, that's everything that Mitchell had in his control. And Ken, as a player, you and I would have done the same thing. that's good for him.
Yep.
It takes up the percentage and brings him the potential of getting a larger portion of the salary cap as he becomes a 10-year vet. Free agency is expected, I think I saw it today, Kenny Rhoda, to be upward of 190 to 200 million by the time he reaches that. So that's about a 5% difference, right, in what the cap currently is and what the cap will be. So don't hate. Donovan Mitchell did exactly what every player should do. He maximized his earning opportunity by taking the lesser contract for the least amount of years right now. Now, so what does this do to the Cavaliers? Because, well, we're concerned about, well, the roster and what have you. I think Mitchell's happy that, and I believe he quote today, Kenny, was it today, that he's happy that this is now concluded and that he's a Cavalier and intends to be a Cavalier for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and he also sent out a tweet using Leonardo DiCaprio from The Wolf of Wall Street. So if you want to look that up and see what scene that is, you can. It's fantastic. So yeah, this is over. Hey, the drama is done. Thank goodness, right?
Yes.
Now we focus on, okay, Donovan Mitchell is going to sign an extension. What does Rich Paul and Clutch Sports do with Darius Garland? Because at the end of the playoffs, we had heard that if Mitchell signs, there were rumblings that Rich Paul and Clutch Sports might try and get Darius Garland traded out of Cleveland. But I don't know if there's a trade partner now, because a lot of those teams already made moves to fill the point guard spot, with the San Antonios.
Yep.
Signing Chris Paul on Saturday when they're allowed to be the veteran point guard for Wemby. DeJounte Murray goes from Atlanta, right?
Yes.
And he goes over to New Orleans. So my Brandon Ingram, the guy I couldn't think of, right? That trade probably not in the works there. And then you look at other moves that were made point guard wise by Minnesota. So I don't know if there is still a market for a Darius Garland out there. So that's why, as we talked about in the first segment here on the R&R podcast, they might be running it back with the core four.
Well, given the situation now that, and of course, when things look like, and the New York Knicks, for example, one of now the top 3-4 teams in the East, right?
Yep.
Jalen Brunson's emerged as an unquestioned star in this league now. So where the Knicks were believed to be one of the teams that were really going to aggressively pursue Mitchell, that's no longer there. Then they use their trade assets. They got OG Anunoby re-signed. And do we even need to talk about Brooklyn? They don't even, to me, they don't even count right now as far as the New York teams. I don't think they're even a factor in anything right now anymore.
Reg, the only thing I hope they're a factor in is the Cavaliers getting Cam Johnson off that roster to be that
you like
three.
Cam Johnson?
Yeah,
okay.
that's the guy that I would love to add to this team as my starting three. So that's the only reason I have any interest in the Nets.
Gotcha. Okay, and that's legit. I like Cam Johnson too. But this is, I don't see a better opportunity for Donovan Mitchell to be successful and win and possibly be on a championship team than he is right here in Cleveland right now. And apparently by signing this contract here today on Tuesday, July the 2nd, and maybe a part of it was Kenny Atkinson now being the head coach. I don't know. Do you think, I throw this out because do you think, Kenny Rhoda, that maybe Donovan Mitchell was given a guarantee that he might be able to have at least being talked to and have a say-so in roster composition and personnel decisions for this Cavalier squad? Do you think that was a part of enticing him to sign this deal?
Absolutely. Coaching and roster, both.
All right.
He's your LeBron James of this team. Not as good as LeBron, but he's the, what do you call it? The alpha male in the room, right? He's the leader of this team. He's your best player. So, yes, I think he has say in what happens with the roster moving forward now that they have Kenny Atkinson as the head coach.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if nothing else, doesn't this keep the Cavaliers relevant? Relevant with an opportunity to be successful, as in winning with Donovan Mitchell in his roster?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and so I'm not the biggest Kobe Altman fan in the world, nor Dan Gilbert fan in the world. I won't speak for you. That's me. But they knew what they had to have here. And at least at first blush, meaning now, the first domino they had to have fall with their basketball team, they got it done. So kudos to them.
Yeah, this has been a decent offseason so far for Kobe Altman. They didn't stand pat with JB. They hired the guy. Their first interview guy was the guy they ended up hiring. He wanted the job. His first words when he walked into their first meeting was, "I want this job." Well, he got the job in Kenny Atkinson. Now you've got Donovan Mitchell going to sign on Saturday. That extension. Do they now extend Evan Mobley? And be like the Philadelphia 76ers, who gave Paul George a $200 million contract and then extended Tyrese Maxey with a $200 million contract. Well, do that for Evan Mobley. So you got him locked up. And then go get me that starting three, whether it's Cam Johnson, whether you can still trade for Brandon Ingram, Miles Bridges. There's just three guys, that I have written down. Make this roster better to challenge the Celtics and the Sixers and the Knicks and the Pacers in the Eastern Conference.
There's your four. Those are the four that, in my mind, are ahead of the Cavaliers right now. So, yes, it's definitely something that has to be done, and it would not be a possibility if Donovan Mitchell wasn't a part of that right now. You got him in control, at least for a couple of years. Now, might he do some of the things that Kevin Durant has done?
Right.
And not this year, but maybe next year, say, get me out of here. Well, we're just going to have to wait and see. But I think a lot of that is how this basketball team performs, don't you?
Absolutely, without question. Hey, had they lost Donovan Mitchell and had to trade him, if he would have said, no, I'm not signing the extension, they go from a Eastern Conference semifinals team to a play-in team, in my opinion, right? Without him. Yeah. So the fact that he's staying, that makes them still a playoff team, one of the top six. We'll see, with injuries and how the longevity of the season plays out and everything like that. But in order to really challenge in the Eastern Conference, I need to see at least one big move roster-wise this offseason at that wing position where you need length to deal with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, as well as the other players on those teams we mentioned, from Paul George to Mikal Bridges and company.
Of course. Those teams that we are ahead of them right now in the Eastern Conference, you're going to have that. Kenny, in addition to that, my biggest words to a Cleveland Cavalier is, come on, Evan Mobley. Come on, man. It's time. It's time for you to you've got the skill level. You've got the talent necessary in virtually every facet of the game. I believe that Kenny Atkinson is going to there's no question in my mind, I think. And yes, at 6'11", he's going to be made the face of what's done in this Cavalier offensive system. Come on, Evan Mobley, let's go. I think we all believe in you that you could get it done, but it's time to really have those breakout type of next couple of years that you can be the guy and have everybody else follow your lead, Evan Mobley. You be the guy that takes this team to where everybody here wants it to go and where the city, the fan base, everybody wants the Cavaliers to be, and that is continuing to build to win an NBA championship. Evan Mobley, grab the reins and make it happen.
I'm going to agree with you and disagree with you from this standpoint. I still believe this is Donovan Mitchell's team. but Evan Mobley needs to demand the ball more and be the second option to Donovan Mitchell. Not Darius Garland, not Max Strus, nobody. Evan Mobley has to be the anchor of the defense, as he was all NBA defensive team last year, not this year because he missed too many games, right, Reg? Okay. Yes. He has to maintain that level of defensive play, but yes, he's got to elevate that game. Here's what I'm looking from him. I'm looking for 20 and 10 from Evan Mobley this year. I want a double-double with 20 points and 10 boards a night, which means Donovan Mitchell's 28 or 27 may come down to about 26 or 25. I'm okay with that. And I want Garland, if they're keeping him, I want his assists to go up, and that scoring at about 15 a game, I'm fine with that from Darius Garland, as long as he's getting Evan Mobley more involved in the offense as that second option behind Donovan Mitchell.
I'll agree with that only if that last thing you said becomes bottom line 1,000,000% fact. That Evan Mobley, to me, is 1A with Mitchell. I don't need to see you any longer, Darius Garland, bounce, get in the paint, go under the hoop, try to find a way to come back in the paint and get your fall away. No.
Yeah.
Get Evan Mobley the damn ball, please.
Okay.
Please. Because if you're not willing to do that now, and if I'm Kenny Atkinson, I'm having that conversation with, we know Darius Garland is a talented young man, but if you are not willing to basically put your game in that kind of way, then I don't know if I can have the trust in you to be a main factor on this squad. Now, that would be me with Darius Garland if I'm Kenny Atkinson.
I'm with you 100%, and that's why Rich Paul probably wants him to get moved so he can be a starting point guard and the number one option somewhere else. But he should ask Kyrie Irving about wanting to be the lead guy and what that was like for Kyrie. He learned the hard way after forcing a trade out of Cleveland and realized, you know what? It's not bad being Robin to LeBron's Batman. Well, it's not bad being Robin, or maybe in this case, Alfred the Butler to, Batman and Robin and Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley, if that's what it turns out to be. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out with what the front office does from this point moving forward, Reg.
Yep. Well said. And it's going to be something that it's going to have a lot of intrigue attached to it, and something that, we're going to have to keep very strongly attached to until this NBA season begins in October.
Yeah, a very interesting offseason so far for the Cavs. Might get even more interesting as the weeks pass by. All right, Reg, always fun chatting with you, talking NBA hoops. Love doing it. Great stuff on this, and we will look forward to not only keeping everybody up to date on the Cavaliers. We'll see if the Guardians can maintain first place in the AL Central, and before you know it, take me home, country roads to the place I belong, West Virginia, Greenbrier Resort. We'll be talking Browns football training camp out in West Virginia.
We haven't forgot about them. The calendar's in July now. Training camp begins, and of course, Kenny and I will R&R will be replete with the best Browns, not only conversation, but information that you're going to want during the course of this 24 football season. Kenny, that's going to have a lot of intrigue attached to it as well, right? For the Cleveland Browns. No doubt about it. We'll be getting to that real soon.
Yeah, we may need Cleveland Party Rentals to get through the Browns season this year. And thanks to them and Newark Auto Body for sponsoring the R&R podcast. And thanks once again to our producer, Ty Cordts, for everything that he does, getting us all out to you.